Good afternoon. Hey, hey. All right, a couple things for you all at the top, and then we'll get going. So, in an hour, President Biden will meet with leaders of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, which represents 22,000 workers at West Coast ports, and the Pacific Maritime Association, which represents shipping companies. The president will congratulate them on finalizing a new contract, which was ratified with overwhelming support from union members. He will also recognize the work of Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su, who helped reach an agreement. The contract covers 29 ports, including the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, which handles 40% of our nation's cargo containers. It guarantees a 32% pay increase over 6 years. The president will also discuss his administration's progress strengthening America's ports and supply chains. Thanks in part to the work of the President's Supply Chain Distribution Task Force, we've seen supply chains unsnarl. Our ports moved record cargo levels over the last 2 years. We have overcome the massive supply chain problems that increased prices around the world, and east-west ocean shipping prices have plunged nearly 90%. That's all helped lower inflation. And thanks to Bidenomics, we are working our infrastructure and supply chains even stronger. The bipartisan infrastructure legislation law, or I should say law, is making significant investments to modernize our ports. The Ocean Shipping Reform Act is cracking down on foreign shipping companies to lower prices for goods. And the CHIPS Act and Inflation Reduction Act are strengthening our supply chains for things Americans use every day. Today, Russia launched a new wave of air strikes against the people of Ukraine, killing at least 16 people and wounding dozens more. These brutal Russian attacks underscore the importance of continuing to support the people of Ukraine as they defend their territory against unprovoked, unjustified Russian aggression. That's the message that the Secretary sent. Secretary Blinken, as you all know, is carrying that message with him on his trip to Ukraine today. And it's a message the United States is sending today by announcing a new security assistance package, which includes more ammunition for artillery and HIMARS systems, Javelin, and anti-armor systems as well. Tank ammunitions for Abrams tanks, which will be arriving in Ukraine soon. An air defense system to help Ukraine protect its people from airstrikes like those they faced today. The Kremlin could end this war at any time by withdrawing its forces from Ukraine and stopping its brutal attacks. Until it does, the United States and our allies and our partners will stand united with Ukraine as long as it takes. Earlier this year, when we made our bipartisan budget agreement, we made promises to the American people, along with congressional Republicans and congressional Democrats. Unfortunately, House Republicans, unlike Senate Republicans, are considering breaking that explicit promise due to demands from extreme members of their party. Breaking this promise would inflict painful cost on the country, making troops and Border Patrol agents work without paychecks, hurting our economy, and undermining our ability to fight high-stakes, real-life crises like fentanyl and natural disasters. As part of this unity agenda, the President Biden is urging Congress to provide $800 million in emergency funding to fight fentanyl trafficking and counter the deadly substance being illegally imported from China. Congressional Republicans are on record talking about the urgency of fighting fentanyl. Now is not the time to set us back. It is time to fight that and to keep their promises. We should all work together to give the DEA, the Border Patrol, and Department of Homeland Security the anti-fentanyl funding President Biden is seeking so that we can save lives. Remember, real lives are at stake here. And finally, I know folks are have this question, so I'm going to preempt the questions. Hopefully, your first question on this: the president tested negative for COVID-19 this morning. Following negative tests on Monday night and also yesterday, he is not experiencing any symptoms, which of course is a good thing.
I thought you just tested positive.
Doing well as well, and she remains in Delaware, which is also a good thing. The CDC guidelines recommend, as I said before, as you all know, a combination of masking, testing, and monitoring for symptoms. The president is doing all that he can, of course, in consultation with his physician, and so he's keeping with the CDC guidelines, as you all know. Okay.
Thank you. You did preempt my first question.
Oh, good. That's good.
But on that, will he be testing again tomorrow before he boards a flight, and will he be testing in India and Vietnam?
So I don't have any timeline on his testing cadence. I can tell you that he'll be doing that regularly, as in consultation, as I've said before, with his physician. And we've been pretty transparent on letting you all know when he's tested. We shared that on Monday, we shared on Tuesday, and certainly we shared that today. And so we will certainly let you know what that will be. But we've been very clear, all travelers who are going to India will be tested, including the president. As I mentioned, the president was tested today and tested negative, which is a good thing. We're happy to hear that.
Secondly, the vice president gave an interview to my EP colleague, Chris McGarrian, today, and she told Chris that all those responsible for the effort to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and the ensuing violence must be held accountable, even if that means former President Trump. In short, does the president agree with those sentiments?
So let me just step back for a second, just try to go beyond or past the headlines for a moment, because I think it's really important. You'll see that the president, that the vice president, Vice President Harris, spoke very clearly about how everyone is entitled to their rights, but that everyone has to follow the rules as well. So as you know, she is a former prosecutor. She knows that very well and understands that. She was certainly affirming her belief in our system of laws, which is something that, of course, the president shares and believes in. Not going to go beyond that. I think her remarks were very clear. If you go beyond, certainly beyond the headlines. And so, again, she was reaffirming or affirming her belief in our system. Again, this is something that, of course, the president believes in, and we're going to continue to be very mindful. I'm going to continue to be very mindful here, and I'm going to let the Department of Justice do their job independently, and so I'm just going to leave it there.
Thanks, Green. CDC guidelines for people who are exposed to COVID say that you should wear a high-quality mask anytime you are around others inside your home or indoors in public. The president, of course, did wear that mask in the Medal of Honor ceremony, but then took it off and didn't put it back on. Was that a mistake?
So look, I'm going to share a couple of things with all of you here, and just start with what the ceremony was all about, because it's incredibly important. The president took off his mask, as I said he would, to deliver incredibly powerful remarks about this captain, Captain Taylor, and what he did in service to our nation, and he wanted to honor the captain. And for a brief time afterwards, he also didn't have his mask on, as you just laid out, and he left as planned, as it was planned. He left when there was a pause in the program in order to minimize his close contact with attendees who are about to participate in a reception. And you all.
Oh, that's why he abruptly left, huh? He was told to do so.
There was a pause in the program because, again, he wanted to minimize certainly his impact on folks who were there. And so, look, we have to take this all into context. I think it's important that we do this. We are in a different phase, right? As we have said many times with COVID, this is kind of going on the third year of coming out of this pandemic. We believe we're in a very strong position to continue to fight COVID. And this is not new. People know what it's like to have COVID, know what it's like during this time. I think what's the most important is the president tested negative a couple of hours before this event. He tested negative yesterday. As I just mentioned, he tested negative on Monday. He tested negative today. He has no symptoms. And I think it's important to also look at the context as well. And for a brief moment afterwards, yes, he did have his mask was not on. And then when the program paused for a moment, he stepped out.
But he didn't put it back on. Is he out of practice? Is he like so many Americans?
Look, what I can say is we got to put this all in context. Afterwards, we planned for the president to leave when there was a pause in the program, so that it would minimize him being in the room. He did just that. And I also would want to add is before the event started, the president spent a good amount of time with the Captain Taylor, and his family, and everybody was masked because he wanted to spend that quality, important time hearing from this hero, hearing his stories, and really thanking him one-on-one, and also with his family around him. And so the president, in every way that we could yesterday, followed the CDC guidelines. And again, he had his mask off briefly, and then when there was a pause, he walked out.
Just very quickly, should those guidelines still be the same? They're a year old now.
That
Do you
is
stand by those
that is
guidelines?
not for me to speak to. It truly isn't. This is something that CDC decides on. They are the experts. They are the ones who certainly provide the guidelines. It is not for me to speak to. Okay.
So the trip tomorrow is a go.
There's no change. There's no change. I mean, remember, Steve, tested negative on Monday, tested negative Tuesday, tested negative today, has no symptoms. The president doesn't have any symptoms. Nothing has changed with his travel.
And do you have a dollar figure on the new Ukraine package?
I don't have a dollar figure. I would refer you to the State Department. And
Dollar figure should be zero.
the Department talked about this a little bit. So
Huge zero.
To extend their oil production cuts. What's your reaction to that? How does that complicate your effort to lower gas prices?
So look, it doesn't complicate our efforts. We've been very clear. The president has said at the top or the center of his economic policy is lowering costs for Americans, right? And so our focus is going to be about American consumers, how we can continue to do that. If you look at what we've been able to do from last summer to this summer, lowering gas prices by $1.20, that is because of the work that this administration has done. And so we're always going to be focused on what steps we can take to continue to lower prices for Americans. That's why last week was so important. We talked about the first 10 drugs, that first tranche of drugs, pharmaceutical drugs that Medicare is going to be able now to negotiate, right? Another way coming out of the Inflation Reduction Act, one of those key provisions to make sure that we continue to lower costs for Americans. That's going to be our focus.
Is Brett McGirt going to bring this up while he's meeting with Saudis this week?
So I don't have anything to share about the agenda. I know that Jake Sullivan, clearly our national security advisor, laid out that it was an array of items that was being brought up on his trip. So I just don't have anything beyond what Jake shared on that particular piece.
Thanks, Green. Given the president's departure of not 24 hours away, have you formulated any sort of contingency plan if he can't attend? Would the vice president go in his place? Would he participate virtually? Can you elaborate on that?
So I don't have any contingency plans to read out to you. What I can say, there's no changes to his travel. I think, again, he tested negative on Monday, tested negative on Tuesday, tested negative today, which is very good, right? And he is certainly doesn't have any symptoms, as I mentioned at the top. And so I think that's a good thing, right? And so the president's going to continue to do his job. We are expecting to travel tomorrow.
On oil, I know the administration is currently trying to refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, but if prices continue to spiral out of control, would you consider tapping it and selling more on the market to lower prices?
So don't want to get too much into hypotheticals or what may or may not happen. Just want to be very careful. Clearly, that's something that the Energy Department focuses on as it relates to that piece of refilling. So just not going to get ahead of what the Energy Department might do. And so I'm just going to leave it there.
And lastly, on the auto workers strike, or potential strike, the president is going to talk today. He's talked many times about being the most pro-union president in U.S. history. So would he rule out invoking the Taft-Hartley Act to stop a strike, or if the auto workers do decide to invoke a strike on September 14th?
Again, not going to get ahead of hypotheticals. Look, the president truly believes in collective bargaining, right? And one of the things that I think, if anything, what this event that we're about to see the president speak at should show is that it works, right? You have the West Coast ports. They came together and they were able to come to an agreement in a good faith way. They came to the table, and that's what the president wants to see. And so he's optimistic that that's going to be the way forward, that they're going to come to an agreement. But again, he believes in collective bargaining. Not going to get ahead, not going to get into hypotheticals from here. But doesn't take away the support that this president has for the union, as he's had, not just as president, but as vice president and as senator. Go ahead, Garen.
Today is the funeral service for Angela Carr, one of the 3 victims of the Jacksonville murders. I know the president said that he did not reach out to the family because one of the families did not want to be contacted. Has that changed? Has there been any additional communication with the family or with the community in Jacksonville?
So I don't have any calls to read out to you at this time. I would refer you to the powerful words that the president said when he was in Florida on Saturday. He ended his remarks while he was there on the ground, of course, dealing with another tragedy, right, of folks who lost so much in a rural area after Hurricane Idalia hit. But he wanted to make sure while he was in Florida that he spoke to the people of Jacksonville, and he talked about where we are as a country and how everybody needs to step up to fight back and speak out against what we're seeing, right? Against these hateful attacks. And so that's the president is going to continue to do that. He's going to continue to be incredibly forceful and speak against this type of hate. And when you're silent, you're complicit. You heard that directly from this president. I don't have any calls to read out at this time, but if those calls do happen, certainly we would share that with all of you. Sure.
During the president and vice president's meeting with civil rights leaders on the anniversary, the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, there were requests for the United We Stand Summit to be brought to Jacksonville in particular. Have there been any preliminary conversations about that? And more broadly, does the White House believe that there should be legislation, perhaps an anti-Black hate crime similar to the anti-Asian one that was signed in 2021? Or does the White House believe that the laws in the book, including the Anti-Lynching Act, is sufficient to address the rise of anti-Black hate crimes?
So there's a couple of things that you just asked me there. The first thing is there has been preliminary discussions, conversations with the organizers of the summit and us, so clearly, or the civil rights leaders, I should say, on the summit. Don't have anything to share at this time but we're looking at when we could have this, a date. I can't speak to Jacksonville, don't have a location about Jacksonville, but certainly there's our initial conversations happening. As it relates to the anti-lynching bill or any other piece of legislation, don't have anything to announce. But look, let's not forget, and I know you've reported this, the anti-lynching bill took decades upon decades to get to where it got passed, and the president was able to sign it. It took a long time to get that piece of legislation. A lot of hard work was put into getting that done, and so it's an important piece of legislation. As it relates to anything additional, I just don't have anything to share at this time.
If the president continues to test negative, will he wear a mask in India for how many days? And will he do anything else to change his behavior as he's around so many world leaders?
No, it's a good question. Look, as you know, there's about, I believe, a 10-day window, right? Once the person who's in close contact, the president's going to continue to follow CDC guidance. And as I mentioned at the top, that includes masking, that includes testing. The testing is not recommended to be every day for.
Oh my God, is there anything else to talk about other than the damn plague? This is why I hate covering the stupid press briefings.
For any symptoms. He has not had any symptoms for the past three tests, 3 days, if you will. And so we're going to the president's going to continue to move forward in close consultation with his physician. I just don't have anything else to add.
So he would continue to mask up then for 10 days past the exposure point. Is that the plan at this
What
point?
I can say is that the CDC, when it comes to the 10 days, the CDC guidelines recommend
There's no point in paying attention to what the rules are. They'll keep changing the rules. Stop asking questions. Move on to something else.
With his physician, as he has been doing the last 3 days. As I mentioned, tested negative on Monday, tested negative on Tuesday, tested negative today, and doesn't have any symptoms.
Obviously been pushing Congress to pass a CR. We are coming closer to that end of September deadline. What is the president doing specifically to make sure that happens? Is he speaking with Democratic leaders? Is he speaking with Republican leaders?
So I can say this, and I've mentioned many times our Hill engagement from here with OMB Director and also our Legislative Affairs Office and others, senior level officials here from the White House. And so those folks, as you can imagine, they meet regularly with the President, and they give him updates on budget negotiations. So he is constantly...
Destiny, let's watch something else. We will be soon, hopefully.
Specific calls to read.
We have quite a bit of news to cover today.
Members of Congress, as he has, about numerous amount of issues, and also in order to keep up on the government funded process that's going on the other side of Pennsylvania. So I'll say this, his message in private is the same as it is in public, as it has been, as we have been saying as well, which is there's no reason for a government shutdown. It is important for Congress to keep their promise that they made to the American people and do their job. That is it. We've been very clear about that. And, I've said this, and he'll continue to say this as well, when it comes to the government supplemental funding, lives are at stake. These key, important government programs need to continue to be funded. And so we're going to continue to say that. Congress has a job to do. They need to keep the government open. I'm going to go around. Go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you about G20. What the President's view about the achievement the G20 has done so far under India's presidency?
So, look, we commend the Prime Minister Modi, in his leadership of the G20 this year, and we are committed to helping ensure that India has a successful G20 host as they host it this year. And so that's going to continue to be our commitment. During Prime Minister Modi's visit here in June, as you covered very closely, the President and Prime Minister shared their determination to deliver on shared priorities at the summit. And so the President is very much looking forward to continuing that work with the Prime Minister and other leaders later this week as we head out tomorrow.
And when they meet on a bilateral meeting, I think on Friday, what were the main issues to be discussed during that time?
So look, we're gonna have more to share as we get closer. Tomorrow we're gonna do a gaggle on the plane on our way out on our way headed to the G20, and I'll have someone from NSC join as well, and who will be able to lay out specifically some more meat on the bones, if you will, on what the G20 is going to look like, especially the first day. And so I'll let that happen, and you'll hear directly from NSC on that piece. But look, we're committed for this to be a successful summit. We'll have more to share certainly on the bilateral with the Prime Minister. I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you.
House Republicans have just sent a letter to National Archives requesting unredacted records from the office of then Vice President Biden. Does the White House support the transparency on these records?
So look, I'm just going to let, I know the White House, my team at the White House Counsel's Office has responded to this. I'm just going to let them deal with that information. I just don't have more to say.
The letter cites email traffic between Kate Bedingfield and Eric Schwerwin, who's a longtime Hunter Biden business associate, in which Bedingfield signed off on quotes that should be used to respond to media inquiries about Hunter's involvement in Burisma. How do you respond to criticism that shows there was no wall between then Vice President Biden's work and his family's business dealings?
I understand the question. I appreciate the question. I get the question. I'm just going to let the White House counsel.
But you're just not going to answer the question, right?
About fact-checking here at the White House. The initial statement from the president about the passing of Governor Bill Richardson included condolences for his wife of 50 years, Barbara, and their daughter, Heather. That line about Heather, the daughter, has been removed because they didn't have a daughter named Heather or daughter. So can you walk us through how these press releases are fact-checked, who signs off on them in the end, and then in this case, how this error was made?
So look, we apologize for the error, certainly. That is not something that we want to do, right? We want to make sure that we get this information out clearly and in a straightforward way to the American people. So that was not done intentionally. And certainly when we realized that error, it was removed. from the website. We do have fact checkers here. We do have multiple people who take a look at the press releases, especially from the president. This was just a miss, unfortunately, and we apologize for that miss. And so, again, as soon as we realized it, we removed it from the website. It is, I just want to reiterate our condolences to the family. And I think the president actually spoke, he was shouted a question over the weekend about, I believe on Saturday, about Bill Richardson. He responded to that, and I know Bill Richardson was a friend to the president. And so, again, we apologize for that error, and certainly that is not something that we want to see happen, and it is not a common occurrence, right, that happens from this White House.
Has the source of the error been identified and dealt with to prevent it from happening again?
We will do our best. What I can say from here and committed to saying from here is that we will do our best to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Again, it was an error. We apologize. I apologize just now, and we certainly removed that, as you just stated, the moment that we realized that that error was made.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Corinne. You mentioned the president's supplemental request earlier and lives being at stake. Senator Rubio, whose state is recovering from Hurricane Idalia, says the $16 billion in additional disaster relief should be decoupled from the additional funding sought for Ukraine. Of course, that's the part of the request that seems to be opposed by many Republicans. Is the administration willing to separate these requests and seek the FEMA disaster aid independently to ensure it gets to the hurricane victims and Hawaii wildfire victims as quickly as possible, or do you see that these things have to be grouped together for the request?
So look, I've been asked this question multiple times over the last, 10 days about your specific question about this, the supplemental funding for Ukraine and also what has been requested by FEMA, which is the $16 billion. Look, we see them both as incredibly important. I just laid out at the top what we saw happen in Ukraine. 16 civilians died. We are going to see the president go to the G20 talking about our commitment for Ukraine and making sure that the people of Ukraine who are bravely fighting for their sovereignty, for their democracy, has what they need to fight against Russia's aggression. We have been very clear about that. We believe that has been done in a bipartisan way, and we have said we appreciate the bipartisanship that has come out of Congress in getting this done. It is important. It is important to help a country continue to fight for their democracy, and so we believe, as United States, this president believes, as a leader, that this is part of our job, right? Part of our duty to make sure that Ukraine continues to fight again for their sovereignty, for their democracy.
What about closing our borders so we can keep our sovereignty?
We've seen, you all have covered what's been happening the last 2 years under this administration, specifically on what we've seen with extreme weather, extreme temperatures, and what that's doing to communities. We were in a rural community on Saturday. The president was there. You all saw what happened in these communities. It should be done. It should be, that $16 billion should be moved forward for communities across the country. We are not going to get into hypotheticals from here about decoupling anything at this time. What we believe these are vital, important government programs that need to be funded, that Congress should act on, that has been done in a bipartisan way. And so that's what we're going to continue to stick to.
More quickly get that FEMA funding. Why not do that?
I hear your question. I just laid out why each are incredibly important to move forward with. And so our goal here is to get that done. We're having those conversations here at the White House with folks on the other side of Pennsylvania, as I just mentioned, to get this done. These are vital programs. These are vital, important government programs that need to be done. And so that is the message that we're going to be very clear about. And as I said, the president says that privately and also publicly.
On the UAW, as the deadline gets closer, does the stance or the position of the administration change? I know in previous labor disputes, for instance, you've invited the negotiators here and tried to hammer out a deal as that deadline approached. Is that something that rises to this level with the UAW and the automakers?
I mean, look, we have had conversations. I mentioned Gene Sperling being the lead on having and being part of conversations for us at the White House, which is, I think, incredibly important. We've seen what Julie Su has been able to do, the West Coast ports, as you'll see in less than an hour from hearing from the president. Look, We believe in collective bargaining. I don't have anything else to share. I don't want to get into hypotheticals from here. We believe that, if both sides come in good faith, that, we're going to continue to be optimistic here. We're going to continue to be optimistic on moving forward. So just going to leave it there. I'm going to let the unions and certainly folks who are at the table continue to have the conversations, but I'm just not going to get into hypotheticals from here.
I guess what I'm trying to ask, and apologies for not doing it better the first time, is that, with the ports and with the freight rail, those were seen as very important to keep the economy moving forward, the supply chain. Is that how this is viewed with the automakers? Is this, if there were a strike, does the administration view it in the same kind of harm that they saw the other two situations?
Look, we're going to, I want to be careful, don't want to get into hypotheticals about what could or could not happen. What we are saying is that we know collective bargaining works. I mentioned the West Coast ports, the Teamsters and the UPS, which we just saw a month or two ago, and that's important. The president's going to continue to encourage parties to negotiate in good faith towards an agreement that prevents any kind of shutdown. And that's what we have done. That's what we'll continue to do many times before this. And so we're going to continue to monitor the negotiations. I just don't have anything beyond that besides being very clear on how and what the president believes and wanting to make sure that folks negotiate in good faith. Okay, Karen.
Thanks. Is the First Lady the only member of the Biden family that's tested positive for COVID?
I would refer you to the First Lady's office. I don't have anything further besides, if there were close contacts on that side. I just don't have anything else to share besides the First Lady.
And to go back to the medal ceremony from yesterday, you said today to my colleague that the president, in every way that we could, followed the CDC guidelines. And you made a point to say that beforehand, when he was meeting with Captain Taylor, he was masked, so you could have that time with him. Then why not wear a mask when he was putting the medal around his neck and he was so close to him like that? Was that an oversight by the president?
What I can tell you is that the president took off his mask to deliver incredibly powerful remarks about the captain. That was done certainly on purpose, right? Wanting to give him that Medal of Honor, and it's important. It was important to him to speak to the heroics of the captain, and that's what you saw. And afterwards, obviously, he didn't have his mask on, but afterwards, as it was planned, we made sure that when the program was paused, that he was able to leave right after. We wanted to make sure there was a short amount of time that the president was there. And so that's what you saw. And look, the CDC guidelines, as you know, is masking, is testing, and is certainly having close monitoring any symptoms. The president doesn't have any symptoms. He tested negative a couple hours before the event. He tested negative today. I think what's really important is that the president, to put this all into context, that the president doesn't have any symptoms and he's been testing negative.
You've emphasized the pause, that he got out of the room to minimize that. But yesterday you had said that he would remove his mask when sufficiently distanced from others indoors. That was not very sufficiently distanced when he was next to Taylor yesterday. So going forward, if he is that close to people over the next couple of days as he goes to these meetings at the G20, should we expect to see him masked if he is engaging with world leaders like that?
So the president's going to be masking in this 10-day period. He's going to be masking. He's going to be making sure that he is getting tested regularly, in consultation with, certainly in consultation with his physician, and so we will keep those CDC guidelines. Again, he wanted to make sure he had those really important remarks to share about the heroics and what the Captain Taylor did on behalf of his country. So yes, he took off his mask. But what we made sure to happen is that there was a brief pause. When there was a pause in the program, the president left. So to minimize his impact or his impact towards the attendees who were there. And so that was done on purpose. That was done very purposefully, so that again, he wasn't there for too long. Again, before, and the reason why I mentioned the before piece, because the president saw this to be so important that he did take some time with the captain and his family, and everyone was masked, and wanted to make sure that he did his part as well and was being protective of the family and the captain. Again.
We've asked a lot about the president's use of a mask and CDC guidance, but I want to ask about CDC guidance specifically because there is, going into the fall, kids going back to school, CDC still recommends universal indoor masking for kids in school, students, staff, and it seems out of step with some of the studies around the usefulness of masks for kids. There was a piece in The Atlantic, and I'll just read you a quote from it. It says, "We reviewed a variety of studies, some conducted by the CDC itself, some cited by the CDC as evidence of masking effectiveness in a school setting to try to find evidence that would justify the CDC's no end in sight mask guidance for the very low risk pediatric population, particularly post-vaccination. We came up empty-handed." So especially with the president going to Congress to ask for more money for a new vaccine and more money for the CDC, should we keep funding these studies if the CDC is not making guidance that follows the results of those studies?
Here's what I'll say. We did something that the last administration was incapable of doing.
Burn the country down?
A strategy to really truly deal with COVID-19 and this pandemic. They were incapable of doing that. We put forth a comprehensive plan, and we are now in a different place than...
Pretty sure the last administration's the one that came out with the jab that you keep pushing. So I don't know what you're talking about.
And that includes masking. That includes vaccinations. And as you know...
Those tools came from the last administration, you idiot.
...by mid-September. And we're going to make sure and continue to do what we have done the past couple of years is inform folks, let them know that these new vaccines are here, that they have to make sure to take their flu vaccine and also the RSV. All of these things are incredibly important because we know what works. We do. I mean, we know what works.
Yeah, no shit.
...placed than we were 2-3 years ago. But
the CDC does not seem to be responding to the data.
I'll say this, and you're talking about schools. CDC, they're the experts. They use science to come forward with their guidelines, and it is important that we allow them to do their work. And we believe that we are in a different place. And all you got to do is look around. Look around to where we are today and where we are when we first started in this administration. And that's because we put forth a comprehensive plan with tools to make sure that we dealt with the pandemic, that we dealt with COVID in a real way. Let's not forget where we were when the president started off. About thousands of people were dying a day. And so that is like the reality. So clearly something that we have done from the moment that we stepped into this administration to now has worked. And that's because we followed the guidance of the CDC. We let FDA do their work. That's the scientists, that's the experts, and that's why we are in a much better place than we are today. I know you're asking me about data, but all you got to do is look at...
You're manipulating the data to have control.
16 states don't have any mask mandates. 16 states follow CDC guidance closely for schools. 9 states have banned school mask mandates. There's a patchwork, basically, of
but
protocols.
Here's the thing.
And so when the CDC is saying one thing and people are obviously in a better place...
Here's the thing. These are guidelines by CDC. These are not mandates. Hold on. These are not mandates. These are guidelines by CDC, what they recommend, what they believe would work. It is up. It is up to the schools. It is the decisions of the districts at a level.
It's up to us, you dumb douchebag. It's up to us. It's our health. You're such an idiot.
CDC.gov, where you'll get information on how that works. But I do want to say CDC advice for individual and community actions, they're tied to hospital admissions level and want to be really clear. When you look at that, they are about 93% of the country. And so they have the best information for us. These are guidelines, to be very, very clear. These are guidelines, and it is up to local officials and local leaders to decide how they want to move forward. That's why what you just laid out, it's different. There's a reason why it's different, because they make the decision. I'm going to keep going. Okay. All right, we got to go. Sorry, guys.
Catch you next time.
Next time, my friend.
They're different, huh? They're different because they choose to be different. The science is different, okay? It's different over there at the 3-letter facility. It's different over there, okay? That's why. You do as you're told. Shut the hell up and sit down and do what you're fucking told. Stop asking questions and do what you're told. Fucking White House. Jesus loves us. Now I can tell you guys what we're actually going to be covering for the news. My head hurts after hearing all that. How many compliance cloths are we supposed to wear? How many jabs am I supposed to have? Fuck you, KJP. All day. All day. What a bunch of nonsense. What a bunch of nonsense. Well, I hope everyone's happy because you guys wanted it. That's why we went back to covering the damn press briefings, because you guys wanted it so bad. Hope you're happy. Enjoy your propaganda right at the beginning of the show. Damn it. KJP sucks. Anyways, we'll be starting off the real news with a video titled, "This is a Dangerous Theory," talking about using the 14th Amendment or something or other to take Trump off the ballot so you can't choose him as your president. That's an interesting thing that they're talking about, discussing. The liberals, the blue team, whatever, the softies of the world, they're over there just finger banging themselves real hard because they think that's going to work against Ultra MAGA. They're just going to deny him the ability to run for president, and they're really sold on it. They think that's how it's going to go. I don't think anybody else believes that, but that's where we're starting. Then we have a video titled, "This Will Contribute to the Fall of American Civilization," talking about how women are being promoted on the internet and in movies and all kinds of stuff in our culture. Women are being promoted as, you know, go be a bad bitch. You don't need a family. You don't need kids. You don't need a man. You need to run the streets, do a bunch of drinking, sell your hoo-ha and feet pics on the internet, and that makes you A1. You're good to go with that. So that's what that video is talking about, how it's being sold to the youth is that's what you should be doing instead of making a family and creating a unit that is whole and being an upstanding member of your society and whatnot. So that's what that video is talking about. I'm sure a lot of people know exactly what I'm talking about when I say all those things, because that's what the internet is full of right now. Then we have a video titled, "Biden's Bizarre Exit from the White House Event Raises Eyebrows." KJP says that it was protocol. It's protocol because he's got the plague. He had his compliance cloth on. He didn't want to wear it anymore because of pictures and looks and whatever. And so he just escaped the event before anyone caught the plague and killed grandma. So that's what that's all about. Then we have a video titled, "More than 60 indicted on RICO charges for trying to stop Cop City." They're actually cracking down on Antifa out in Atlanta, which is just super surprising. Indicted 60 of them. So those Antifa people we've covered quite a few times out in Atlanta for the Stop the Cop City. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, in Atlanta, they're trying to develop a facility that is being referred to as Cop City. And it's supposed to include almost like a fake city. And this is really common with military. They develop like a fake city, buildings and whatnot. Nobody lives there. It's it's on a field somewhere. And it is specifically for training. SWAT teams and stuff like that train in these kind of facilities all the time. So they could practice kicking indoors, throwing smoke grenades, flash bangs, and all that kind of stuff. So they can have proper, somewhat real life training before they get out in the field. In Atlanta, the cops are trying to develop a place that's being referred to as Cop City that is for the same reasons. Same exact thing. Well, Antifa, which originally was bitching that cops didn't have enough training and that's why they were out there killing people, now that they're trying to create a facility for proper training, Antifa's mad about that. We covered a story a few months ago where the police moved into the location where Cop City is supposed to be built. Antifa's camped out there, refusing to let the construction crews do their job because they're cutting down the trees. So they were going by the label forest defenders. That's what Antifa was calling themselves. And they were refusing to allow the development of the property, to allow the facility to be built there. So they were camping out there. They were blockading the area. Police moved in to remove them for trespassing on the property. And one of the Antifa idiots unzipped their tent and opened fire on a state cop, where 6 or 7 state officers returned fire and smoked that guy big time. And then all the protesters were mad about that for a while. And now we're at the point where 60 of those people are being indicted on RICO charges for the stupid behavior that they were doing, which is pretty exciting because most of those Antifa people, they don't get anything. They get arrested and they get released back out into the wild to commit more acts of domestic terrorism. But we'll see how that goes. Then we'll be wrapping up everything today with a video titled Seattle Man Alleges Anti-White Discrimination After Being Called Devil and Cannibals at his job. He even had to take training to learn to be less white. I can't remember if it was Coca-Cola or whoever was doing that stuff, but wherever he works, they were doing the same thing, and that's how we're going to wrap up today. So I'm going to read through the chat, read all of your guys' thoughts since the press briefing and all the titles of what we're about to cover, and then we will go ahead and get her started. Matt, a training facility. Yeah, that's all Cop City is supposed to be, and it's really ridiculous that Antifa was all up in arms about how police don't have enough training and we need social workers on the streets, and now they're trying to build a facility to have the training that is claimed to be needed so much, and now they're mad about that. So I don't know. This is what happens when you don't raise your kids, because your kids start off to be socialists. That's what they are. You're providing everything to them. They don't have to do anything more than ask or need it, and you give it to them because you're a good parent. But when it's time to be an adult, if they don't know how to be an adult, then all of a sudden there is other issues. They end up growing up to be Antifa. Hold on a second. I just got logged out of something, and that's concerning. I don't have to fight crap right here, but I might have to. Hold on a second. Come on now, do the thing. Just reading the chat, and then I got signed out. Hopefully everything's all good. Okay, I think we're back. I think we're all good to go. Ka-chow. Alright. Astral Hammer, well, bad parents' kids have issues too. It's true. It's true. There's no way to be a perfect parent, I believe. It's just impossible. We're not perfect. God did not make us perfect. Well, he did, and we screwed it all up. But anyways, we're not going to talk about that. Let's see. Jeb, Antifa should volunteer for social work when they have an active shooter situation. Yeah, exactly. A hostage situation, a domestic violence situation, any of those hard, sticky situations that officers get involved in every single day because somebody called. Maybe Antifa would feel different. They're just a bunch of frail, preppy kids. That's all they are. They're just frail, preppy kids that didn't have a hard enough life, so they have to go out there and bitch about someone else's problems. Stand up for someone else because they don't have any problems. Astral Hammer. I can't say that out loud, but that's you're right there. What's up, Kevin? Happy freedom. Getting all worked up here. It's like on the brink of being too hot. Yesterday was like death. I don't know how I made it through the lives yesterday. I barely remember it. Can't kill her now. Bill Gates wants to bury 70 million acres of trees. That doesn't surprise me at all. Bill Gates, he's secretly doing some things. Well, it's not secret. It's like on the low. There sure isn't a lot of spotlight on him for all the shit that he does. Because you could say the same thing about Elon. Elon's always doing these random ventures, and there's so much spotlight on Elon and every little thing he does. Every word he says, every pen he picks up gets a camera on it. Bill Gates does all this stuff, and nobody looks in that direction. We're going to be getting started here in a second. I just want to read through the chats. Tonires? Why do you guys make your names so crazy? Like, do you just not want anyone to read your name? It's so hard to call on people when your name is like all vowels. We'll go with Toe over here on Kick. If she wore pants, they'd be on fire. That's how KJP is. That's how she likes it. Liar, liar, pants on fire. DeRosa Gates airdropped GMO mosquitoes in Florida the other day. They're doing it in Florida and they're doing it in California. I can't find enough information on it, which is why we haven't covered it. But it's been going on for like a week now. And I don't know the facts behind it, which is why I haven't presented it. But I've seen lots of video of these helicopters dropping what looks like dark smoke, but supposedly it's mosquitoes that have been engineered to do something or whatever. I think we're being hit by bioweapons by the government, and we have been since the plague came out, and they're just trying new varieties on us to see what happens. That's what I think. Shunt. Broken system, broken people everywhere. You're not wrong. You are not wrong. My chat is just scrolling like crazy over on YouTube because I never go over there. I don't know. It's going ham. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you should find somewhere else to watch. YouTube sucks. Go watch on Rumble or jeffmaclive.com. I can't sit there with that scrolling chat. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. It's probably just because I haven't looked at it, so the chat's like trying to update, but it's scanning so hard that I can't even see what it says. Either way, let's move forward. Our first video is titled, "This is a Dangerous Theory." Blue team thinks they're going to wipe Trump off the board using the 14th Amendment. And if they successfully do it, we will see lots of damning change. Because they're claiming that you don't even have to be like convicted of crimes. The 14th Amendment is saying, you know, you were a bad president, so you can't never be president again. They don't have to prove that you were a bad president. They just have to go, you're a bad president, and then boom, you're not eligible anymore. If they successfully do that, we will see all kinds of problems in our country. So we'll see, but let's get her started, hooligans.
Warning, priggish prevaricator alert.
The 14th Amendment, Section 3, is pretty clear. It doesn't require that you be convicted of insurrection. It just requires that you have engaged in these acts. It's a disqualification from holding office again. And it fits Donald Trump to a T. By the clear terms of the 14th Amendment, he should be disqualified from holding office.
Told you they were going to pull out all the stops. And that means by any means necessary, you got to dump Trump, even if it means obliterating the actual words, the actual meaning of the U.S. Constitution. And remember, as I said in the angle, the Democrats know that their own base, it doesn't want Biden. They want another alternative to run. They see Biden's flagging poll numbers, but the party elites do not trust their own voters.
Under the 14th Amendment, he is not even allowed to run, even though he hasn't been convicted yet. Instead of concentrating so much about the indictments, I mean, I'm very excited about them myself, but I definitely think 14th Amendment all the way and just prevent him from running.
Well, she is a renowned constitutional scholar. Joining me now is Jonathan Turley, professor of law at George Washington University and a Fox News contributor. Professor, does getting left-leaning state attorneys general, as Adam Schiff was referring to, getting them involved here, does that give this wacky 14th Amendment strategy any more heft or credibility?
I don't think it does. You know, there are academics that have thought about this seriously and have supported this theory. I think that it's the most dangerous theory that has emerged in decades. I think it's entirely unsupported by the text and the history of the 14th Amendment. This provision was written after the Civil War of an actual rebellion where hundreds of thousands of people died. There was an army on the other side. They had their own foreign policy. That's a rebellion. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be used for anything that isn't of that magnitude, but it is notable that Trump has not been charged even with incitement, let alone rebellion or insurrection. Yet they say that this doesn't even require an act of Congress, that any judge can simply announce that he was supporting an insurrection and that he is therefore disqualified, and voters will not get the choice of whether to vote for him or not. That's what makes this so dangerous. I don't think this will withstand review. They could end up getting a couple of judges to go with them. But in the long run, I think it'll be rejected. That's why I'm eager for them to take it to court so we can finally put this on the road and see if they can take it off, get this off the ground. I don't think it will.
I can imagine what Justice Alito and a few of the others would say about this. I mean, talk about anti-democratic. This is the ultimate anti-democratic move that you could think about. Like, it doesn't matter what the people want, whoever the nominee is. If they want Trump, if it wasn't Trump, DeSantis would be, they'd try to charge him with kidnapping the migrants and sending them to, Massachusetts or, California. I mean, you can see that this could go in a lot of different directions, none of them good.
No, I mean, this is a comforting tale to tell liberal children at night so they can sleep restfully. That, Donald Trump will not be on the ballot, but he will be on the ballot. And the thing is, this thing was written after the vice president of the Confederacy showed up in Congress to retake his oath. And people were just a bit peeved about that because he had taken that oath before. Now, we can all have disagreement about what January 6th was. It was a horrible day. It was a desecration of our constitutional system. In my view, and in the view of apparently a majority of people polled, it was a protest that became a riot. I don't believe that it was technically an insurrection. But the question is, should we just have a system where any judge can just take a riot like that and say, well, in my view, it was an insurrection, and you aided and abetted it by not responding fast enough, by using rhetoric that was inflammatory? That is a very dangerous theory, and it would be replicated over and over again if we allow it to be accepted.
To that point, Jonathan, Arizona's Secretary of State let slip an important detail about the broader implications of this 14th Amendment strategy. Watch this.
Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is a radical and sweeping proposition. This isn't just about one person in one office. This is about everyone who's running for any office in the United States of America.
So look, if they can use this against Trump, what stops them from finding that someone else supported the the insurrection that wasn't an insurrection? So you could see where this would continue to leapfrog across other potential races.
That's right. And the ambiguity within this theory is quite maddening. If Trump had asked people to come back an hour earlier, would that have been not an insurrection? If he had mentioned go there peacefully 3 more times, would that have made the difference? We need a bright line rule. After all, Representative Raskin and Democrats tried to stop the certification of Donald Trump in 2016 when there were violent riots in Washington, D.C. against his inauguration. They had no grounds for that. There were no grounds in earlier certification fights by Democrats. Does that mean that they were all engaged in some rebellion or insurrection? No, it doesn't. We have to have some type of bright line rule that guarantees that the voters can make decisions on these questions. I'm not saying that people cannot read this as an insurrection as opposed to a riot, but you have to ask yourself, is this what you want replicated for the future? I don't think it is.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of things that were happening after the killing of George Floyd that were really scary in the country, and chaos was breaking out. People could make all sorts of findings of fact about that in different circumstances as well. Professor, wonderful to see you. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our...
Goodness, I just couldn't stop the video. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if they really try and do it and they bring it to court and all that other stuff. But I think that they're willing to go to any length to stop the Orange Eagle. I think they're willing to do the worst of worst things to prevent him from going back to office. That's what I believe. I don't want that to happen in any kind of way. I don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. But I bet they're willing to do that. So a little bit of whatever, 14th Amendment or whatever, that's low on the totem pole. I'm sure they will try that. And they're already making all the idiots out there, all the soft and stupid people believe it because all the blue team propaganda machine is selling it. They're selling it. They act like it's already decided. So all the soft and stupid people on the internet, and I guarantee this is all over Twitter right now, you'll come across it. You'll come across soft and stupid people that absolutely believe that's what's going to happen. Just like they think Trump's going to jail. They're like, oh, Trump's going to jail. They've been saying that for years. For years. You would think they'd get tired of beating that drum, but they don't. They don't. Oh, this time he's really getting got. He's going to get got. Don't you worry. He'll be in jail. What are you going to do when he's in jail? Blah, blah. What's he going to jail for? And then they just list all this stupid stuff. I mean, if you can get a person to call it an insurrection, then you can tell right then and there that you are talking to a soft and stupid person. I mean, how do you go through 2 trials of impeachment and beat both of them, but still get told, presented to the world as being impeached twice? You beat both trials, but no, you're still impeached twice. They declared that it was not an insurrection, but they still arrested people as insurrectionists, and they still claimed that he committed an insurrection. The erection insurrection or something along those lines. I'm not sure. They're just soft and stupid. They're soft and stupid, and they will eat this up. So I'm sure they're all 14th Amendment. They think it's all in the bag. But they're so blinded by hate that they don't even know what their hope is. Because I bet you all those people that are celebrating that, ask them who they're going to vote for. Because I bet they don't know. Because they're not going to say Old Man Walter. Nobody's supporting Old Man Walter. So who are they going? What are they going to say? Newsom? They're rolling for Newsom? Like, it just, I don't know. They don't know. They're blinded by hate. As long as Trump ends up in jail or ineligible to be on the ballot, that's all they care about. They don't care about benefiting the country from there on out. They just care it's a Trump smear campaign. And they're all participating in it, and they're too stupid to know it. And that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. Read through chat really quick before we move forward. DeRosa, they're going to write in Oprah. There you go. I would not be surprised at all. They're like, we're going to put Trump in jail, and then we're going to put Oprah in office. That wouldn't surprise me. That or Jeffree Star. Nah, they won't go after Jeffree Star. Jeffree Star is a little weird. He's a lot of weird. But he's like really conservative, so the soft and stupid people out there, he's like the only trans that they don't support. Let's see. Reading through the chat. Mr. Beans and Beans, the Supreme Court is not going to accept the 14th Amendment to write Trump off the ballot for president. Not going to happen. I hope not, because that would be really stupid. I'm trying to think. The process of things takes way too long. Like here in Michigan, you have to respect everyone's pronouns or you could be arrested and go to prison for 5 years. I can't remember what year. Oh, it's a hate crime. If you don't use somebody's pronouns correctly, it is a hate crime here in Michigan. You'll go do 5 years in prison. Unless they feel really bad about what you said to them, then you might do up to like 15 years in prison for a hate crime because you didn't call them the right title. You didn't say they were a purple rhino and that's what they wanted to be called. So now you got to go do prison time for a hate crime. The Supreme Court should knock that out, but as far as I know, it hasn't happened yet. And it's because of how long the process takes. So until it goes through, we're all stuck to these standards. They did the same thing with the mandates here in Michigan. Whitmer put all these mandates on us and made us do all this stuff. And if you didn't comply, you could be arrested. I mean, it was at the point where they had in the paper, if you are spreading misinformation or disinformation, Whitmer will send the state police to your house to have a conversation with you, is what the paper said. They didn't say what they would actually do to you, but you would be notified by the state police for promoting misinformation or disinformation. Eventually, the Supreme Court was like, 90% of what she told us all to do was illegal and was immediately removed. Those mandates were kicked out the door as soon as they got a hold of it. But for like 9 months, we all had to play the song and dance, and we all had to participate or go to jail. And you don't want to be stuck in a concrete room when the world's losing their mind, because whatever they do to you is going to happen to you. And there's no one out there that's going to save you, because no one knows what's happening to you in this little concrete room. And it sucks. It really sucks. I mean, jail sucks on its own, but when the world's losing its marbles and you're in jail, it's even worse. So I worry about the process of things, because they could try and push some stuff through and we all just have to deal with it until some sort of Supreme Court or authority of some sort comes in and decides to do something about it. Until that actually happens, we're stuck with the song and dance they wrote for us. And that stuff is what worries me. It's the time it takes for process. Mr. Beansy Beans Whitmer is a C-U-N-T all day. She's a terrible person. She is a terrible person. What's up, Pure Dance Radio UK? Appreciate you being here. Alright, we're going to move forward to this next video. It's titled, "This Will Contribute to the Fall of American Civilization." It's talking about the way they're promoting women on the internet and the lifestyle that they're selling to young women as ideal. They're trying to sell you a dream that women should be on TikTok shaking their cheekers for you and selling feet pics on only Hooligans. But that's not the only way, but that's what they're selling as the perfect lifestyle for young women. Let's get this started.
Ashley St. Clair joins me now. Is this a trend among young women to celebrate not having a family?
It is. It's the Chelsea Handler culture of it all, where they just want to pursue pleasure and drinking all night, going to Beyonce concerts. It's this pursuit of self-pleasure in replace of fulfillment and having a family. And we see this often now. And this poor woman who was blasted online, especially by Matt Walsh and the likes of them, I do feel bad for her, because you heard her say, she said, "I don't have a family yet." And many of these women do want that. And I don't think she understood she was contributing to that Chelsea Handler culture that's very anti-natalist. They think that having a family is bad, having a kid is a burden. And like you said, it's contributing to a declining birth rate, and it will contribute to the fall of civilization in our country eventually.
Why the propaganda to scare young women away from getting married and having children? Because you see it everywhere with the climate agenda. You see it almost in a corporate agenda to a certain extent.
Yes, it's a very anti-natalist agenda, anti-human agenda, in my opinion. We see it with everything. Be a boss, babe, don't have kids. Don't have kids. They're bad for the environment. Nothing worse than carbon-emitting babies. That, to me, is a very evil thing to say. And they say this consistently, and we do have a declining birth rate. We saw it with Rome. They had a declining birth rate right before the fall of Rome. It's happening here in America. It's happening in Japan. And this happens all the time in prosperous nations. And we need to reject this culture, or it's going to be very bad.
What's shashuka?
I have no idea, because I don't watch The Real Housewives of New York. I have a child.
All right, I'm gonna go find out what that is. Ashley, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jesse.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here.
Well, seems like people are finally catching up. It's only been 2-3 years, I think, of really poor portrayment of women. The only time they talk about really strong women is, well, when it's a dude in a dress. And that's really unfortunate. Obviously, not all women are like this. And I don't want people to be misunderstanding of what we're talking about when we're talking about this subject. This is not an outlook of how women are. This is a portrayment that is being sold to young women to think this is the better lifestyle. And I'm sure a lot of you guys remember how cigarettes used to be sold on TV, and I don't think they can do that anymore, but you'd see like a Marlboro commercial or a Camel commercial, and it'd be like a guy or a woman who's either really sexy or really cool and edgy, smoking a cigarette. Oh man, it's so cool. And you would watch that as a young person. When you are trying to portray a cool image, you're cycling through all the imagery you've ever seen in your life in your brain, and you're trying to act out what you saw and was sold to you as being cool. This is still an ongoing thing, which obviously is effective. It's so effective they had to make it illegal to sell cigarettes on TV and stuff because it's so effective. You're seeing this being sold to young women the same way. You don't need a man and all this kind of stuff. Sell your body online and somehow feel you still have self-respect to some degree. It's not good. It's not good. And young women are seeing this, especially on TikTok, where it's either a dude in a dress that's being respected as a woman, or it's a woman that's half naked online showing you her gape, and trying to get you to subscribe to her only Hooligans so you can see the cheese between her toes for $3.99 a month. And then when you're not doing that, go out drinking all night, partying with your friends, have a whole team of basketball players run through you that night, and then tell everybody how much of a bad bitch you are. And pass that on to your children and stuff. And it's no good. It's no good. It's souring the perception of women themselves. You see it all the time. You see the reaction to it. You see men saying that they don't respect women, or they don't think women are respectable anymore, and all this stuff. And then that, of course, gets misunderstood and becomes really toxic, where you have this fight. It's almost like the race thing that's going on, turning men and women against each other, just like turning races against each other. This is all done by plan. This is all being sold as part of the agenda, but it's really affecting young women to where they are behaving this way. Men are like, I don't want nothing to do with you. You're gross with the way you're behaving. And then women go out there and say, why doesn't anyone want me? How come nobody's respecting me? I'm doing what's being sold to me on the internet, but I'm not being treated accordingly. And it's because they don't know. They don't know. They're falling for the trick, and it's gross. It's gross that it's happening. And obviously, once again, this is not how all women are or anything like that. This is just the perception and perspective that's being sold to us. And us being older, especially, and I swear, once you get over 30, you're just like, you don't care about shit anymore. You're not worried about being cool. You're at a point in your life where you like pick up your jeans and you sniff them and you're like, these are still clean, and then you wear them even though you wore them the last 3 days. Like, this is where you start getting in your life. You're not worried with being cool. But when you're 16 years old or something like that, and you're really impressionable, and you're seeing 20-year-old women behaving this way, and maybe you're a 16-year-old girl, you're like, this is how I should behave, so I'll be famous, people will like me, people will think I'm fun. And next thing you know, you're like 65, you don't have any kids, you don't have any family, men don't want to touch you because they watched you hoe yourself out for the last 20 years, and you're a miserable, lonely person, and you don't know why. And that's what the future is going to be like if we don't start changing things. And now it's becoming more obvious when you see conservative ads versus the agenda's ads. Like Lauren Boebert, you see a lot of imagery with her where she's nice looking but not dressed slutty. She's talking about her rights, her family, maybe showing a firearm in a safe way, things like that. But then you'll see the agenda's advertisement where it's like half naked women that are drunk and loose and doing all this stuff. You could see the division is happening, and it's happening deep, real deep. That's just my 2 cents on it. We're gonna read through the chat really quick, and we will be moving forward. Next, we're going to be covering Old Man Walter running away from that event and leaving that award winner just standing there kind of confused on what he's supposed to do. We'll be covering that next. And that if you act like a whore, you'll be treated like one. Yeah, and that's the thing, is they don't understand the second part. The young influenced women out there, they don't understand that. They think that they should be able to behave however they want to. There's lots of podcasts that capitalize on this. I see it all over Twitter. But there's women that believe that they should be allowed to behave however they want to and be treated however they want to. They want to go out and sleep with 3 guys that night and then come home to their husband. Their husband better not say shit or he is oppressing her. And they believe that kind of stuff. And it's the agenda. It's the agenda. We focus so much on the race baiting crap that goes on in the news, turning one color against another, or the belief that there's some evil white supreme pizza in the streets coming to get you if you're not a part of it, and all this stuff, that we don't hear the low hum of genders being pinned against each other as well, the same way. It's all propaganda to get us to divide against each other. I guess once we stopped giving a shit what the football teams were doing and we stopped hating each other for what football team you watch, I guess they had to go deeper than that and go by whether or not you got a wiener or how tan your skin is, because they can't divide us by football teams anymore. Let's read through chat. Kevin. I'm 40 and my dad still hits me if I act a fool. I don't know. I kind of feel we need to bring back spanking. I used to get hit with anything that could be lifted off the ground. My grandma was old school. I mean, it started with switches. My grandma would be like, okay, you know what? I've had enough of your shit. I want you to go outside and pick a switch. Which one you catching tonight? And that was that. You were getting a lashing back then. But my grandma never closed hand punched me or anything like that. My mom came along and decided to treat me that way. But less than that, right? Less than that, reeling that in, I think spanking may have a place in the world. Maybe not a board to the cheeks, and maybe a quick swat. Hey, wake up. Do what I tell you to do. You're acting like a heathen. Not a hooligan. You're acting like a heathen. Yeah, discipline. We'll say that. Discipline needs to be there. Accountability and discipline is needed now more in the world now more than ever before. Don't be one of those people who wishes that politicians were held accountable and you don't hold your own kids accountable. Don't be that person. Accountability needs to be really laid down. We need disciplined adults. And it starts with being a disciplined kid. I believe, anyways. Just flipping through the chat really quick. Can Killer, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. The Rose of the Real Housewives of DC. Yeah. Only clams. We should come out with a platform just to compete. I don't want to host anything like that, though. That was my biggest worry about making the website. I was like, I don't want people to come in there and do really terrible things. But that hasn't happened. Everybody's been really good on the website. I'm kind of surprised we're still live on YouTube with all the things that's been said today. I'm surprised we're not in trouble. Ashley, a simple ear flick. Yeah, a buddy of mine, we always talked about, well, we grew up together, and we went to high school together and stuff. I'm like, yeah, one time my mom hit me with the remote from the TV, and I thought she knocked my teeth out of my head. He's like, my mom used to pinch me. I'm like, your mom used to pinch you? I wish my mom pinched me. You ever been hit so hard you can't go to school the next day because you got handprints on your face? It's not great. He's like, my mom would pinch me in the same spot till it would bruise, and I would take a slap in the face before I got pinched again. I'm like, I don't know, that might be that might be rough. A little flick in the ear, though, that might do you. My stepdad, who's like this 300-pound black dude, he's like 11 feet tall, and when we were acting up, he'd come in and he'd, face to face with us, stand off and stuff, like, get up, I'm gonna say something to you and tell you what you did wrong, and then thump you right between the eyes, and it would knock your brain loose. You would feel your teeth get cold because you got thumped so hard right between the eyes. I don't know what the right way or the wrong way is. All I know is some discipline will go a long way. And will go a long way. Ashley with the ear flick. I'm thinking about that. That had to straighten you out. I don't think it's necessarily the way you're disciplined. I think it's just something that shakes you out of your state of mind and says, hey, straighten your ass out. I don't think it's... I can't figure out what exactly that spark is, but you just need something to wake up, pull your head out of your ass, and do what you're supposed to do. And we need a lot more of that to happen. Hey, I appreciate you, Andrew. Thank you for being here. Jerry, you're a little wild, are you? That's alright. What's up, Patriots Arc? Happy freedom. Play says, no drugs, no bugs. It's a good start. Alright, we're going to move forward to this next video. It's titled, Biden's Bizarre Exit from the White House, or the White House event, raises eyebrows. I can't remember if it was Astral Hammer, who it was, but I was sitting there thinking, I bet he crapped his pants, and then I read that they had said it in the chat, and I was like, we're all on the same page here. They claim that he ran out of the room to save everyone from the plague. He didn't want to kill Grandma with his little coffee cough, and I think the rest of us are all here on the same page thinking he actually crapped his pants and he had to skedaddle before it became a big scene. But we'll see. That's what the subject is here. Let's get this started. Oh, before I forget, since I'm so terrible at selling things, go in the description. Go in the description. I got links for donations. Get you a hooligan shirt like I got. All that cool stuff is there. Make sure you join Gilded. Check out all the links in the description. Support the live. Let's get this started.
11 minutes after the top of the hour, President Biden masking up yesterday while honoring a Medal of Honor recipient after the First Lady tested positive for COVID-19.
Meanwhile, more schools are bringing back mask mandates, which is criminal, as COVID cases begin to rise.
Griff Jenkins is live in Washington with more. So, Griff, Karine Jean-Pierre said the president was going to mask up. Next thing you know, he's right next to that guy, and he's not wearing a mask.
And then he left early.
Not clear he fully understood the guidance. Now, look, COVID cases are up and masks are back, with some schools bringing those draconian mandates back. And as you mentioned, they're even masking up at the White House after the First Lady tested positive.
Since the president was with the First Lady yesterday, he will be masking while indoors and around people. In alignment with CDC guidance, the president will remove his mask when sufficiently distanced from others indoors and while outside as well.
Well, here's where the president failed to follow the guidance. You see him taking the mask off there at a Medal of Honor ceremony. Now, he walked in. You see him walking in with the mask, so he's following the direction there. But then after he takes it off, he seemingly kind of forgot about it, and he just walks out amongst the entire crowd, unmasked and not socially distanced from all of these people you see here. Now, meanwhile, as classes return, schools like Rosemary Hills Elementary here in the D.C. area in Silver Spring, Maryland, they're bringing the masks back. The principal writing in a letter this to parents. Quote, additional N95 masks have been distributed, and students and staff in identified classes or activities will be required to mask while in school for the next 10 days, except while eating or drinking. Masks will become optional again following the 10-day period. At the college level, the University of Michigan laying down the rules for students.
That's where you can't say bunny or Christmas tree.
This could include...
It's offensive.
Permanent residents staying with a nearby relative or friend or finding a hotel space. Students in Michigan housing must leave their residence halls during isolation, even if they are in a single room. Now, these mandates in schools are returning, guys, despite NIH studies showing a lack of correlation between mandates and a reduction in student cases. And at least one member of Congress, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, is trying to introduce a Freedom to Breathe Act that would ban mask mandates at the federal level.
Hey, Griff,
that's unbelievable.
Hey, Griff, real quick. We saw the president walk out without the mask from the ceremony yesterday. Did he leave too early?
No, we don't know. I mean, we've looked at the tape trying to figure out exactly what happened there, but no guidance or clear answer on exactly the time.
They're not shown in this video, but that award winner just stood there unknowing what he was supposed to do, and he even looks to the crowd, and the crowd is like doing this, like maybe just go sit down, because like nobody knew what he was supposed to do. Old man Walter just walked out with crap in his pants.
Let's begin the benediction.
You know, it's amazing. He wanted this job for 50 years. He doesn't seem like he even understands he has the job. He doesn't really go to work much. He leaves early. He doesn't do interviews.
Seems like he just doesn't know what to do.
Right. Is there anybody around him that could just be a body man?
We'll be watching, by the way, Brian, to see if he is masked up later today at any events where there is a presence of the media.
Although I did hear yesterday in the briefing room, apparently, according to a new book, the White House staff babies him. But that's something else.
But wait. Ainsley had a good point. Ainsley had a good
Do you remember when he's on the Easter egg roll and the Easter bunny had to tell him to stop taking
There's
questions?
the Easter bunny when you need him.
Well, the Easter bunny
I love that story.
in the Easter bunny suit was a member of the communications team. It's like, okay, Mr. President, let's go this way.
Right.
Just like,
We're dressed up as different mascots and just lead them around.
If the Easter bunny were here right now, they would say, time for news, and Carly Simpkins. I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian.
Goodness. Old man Walter, they should just have him wander around with Easter bunnies. We might actually cover him live if he went to that spot, but I don't know. I think he crapped his pants and he just dipped out. Because like I just said, I think he's a Marine that received the award. Old man Walter just leaves. And then he's like kind of looking around and he's looking at the crowd like, what do I do? And then the announcer guy announces something and I think they all take off after that. Thankfully, the announcer guy broke the awkward silence that was going on. Lone Wolf, I see you in the chat here. Guidance versus mandate, KJP wordplay on this. Yeah, and I'm not sure if Fox News screwed that up and said mandate instead of guidelines or what, but it does matter. The words do matter, and KJP was pretty adamant today to say these are not mandates, these are guidelines. And I wish the wordplay didn't matter so much. It does matter, but it really shouldn't, because anything below law just falls deaf on my ears. I'm not here to follow your rules. I'm here to follow the law and exercise my right to be healthy and happy. Outside of that, I don't care. So mandates, guidelines, policies, who cares? Who cares? But they sure care when it comes to the plague. They care. They act like they're all laws. Mandates, guidelines, policies. This is the law. You follow our enter keyword here, or we will send the Gestapo after you. That's how they get down. That is how they get down. I'm going to read through the chat really quick before we move forward. We got 2 more videos left. Just reading through the chat. Jeb, I have no pity for old man Walter. He's always been evil. Yeah. He knows what's going on. Well, he might not now. He's pretty lost now, but you can't take back all the stuff he's done. Arrived. We are the ones that suffer. Yep. Yeah, they're all just playing. They're all just singing and dancing up there. It doesn't really apply to them. If it applies to us. Their goofy guidelines and all that. What's up, Rappy? Appreciate you being here. Seppa, watch his eyes. He totally looks lost. He is lost everywhere he goes. Yeah, you always see his eyes wandering around and locking on to people he's familiar with. Like, and he's always doing this. He's always like scanning around. What do I do? And then they'll do some hand signals, and then he's like, oh, okay. So I just wander over here. Who's going to wipe my ass, though? I'm like, old man Walter, he is always lost. And I think he did a lot of that stuff because Jill Handler wasn't there. Normally when they're in that room that he was in where he bolted out, usually Jill Handler is very hands-on there. She's like, got him by the hand, walking him up the stage, walking him off the stage, positioning him while he's on stage, tapping his hands and stuff like that, like, hey, don't say that, hey, don't talk about this. She wasn't there. She's got the plague or something. They're just saying she's got the plague. She's actually on vacation with Hyena Harris's husband. After getting caught kissing in the house, they had to take it off somewhere. Maybe they're vacationing in Maui. I don't know. They're just saying that she's got the plague. Arrived. It's all BS. It is. It is BS. They're just getting it started. They're just kicking up the plague dust. So it's on our mind, and then when the mandates come, we can be like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. It's light form conditioning right now. Can't kill her. Where's Dr. Jill? I made a duty. Come on, man. Old man Walter. I don't know what this is about. Something just popped in my head, and maybe this will steer everyone the wrong way. But what if when you got to heaven and you had to answer to God for all the shit that you did in your life, what if his voice was like old man Walter? What if he spoke to you like old man Walter, and it was your final test? You can't be all pissed off, and you can't reflect all the bad stuff in your brain when you hear his voice telling you to come forward and to answer for all the wrong things you've done, but he sounds like old man Walter. That was your final test. And I clench your butthole right there. You're like, I'm sorry, God. God's just laughing inside. He's like, I know you can't stand my voice right now. This is your test. I'm testing you right now. I don't know why that just popped in my head. It just did. It's things like that that I believe is why God thinks I'm funny. It's between me and God. Don't you worry about it. It's not up to you to decide if I'm funny or not. Oh, we got a troll over on on Twitch. Have you guys got enough of them or what? I like to leave them around so you guys don't get hungry. What's up, Stern? Appreciate you being here. Mr. Beansy Beans. Is Alice Cooper looking nurse? Maid should be ashamed of herself if she had shame. Yeah, I don't think Jill Handler has any shame. I mean, didn't Old Man Walter's wife die in a car accident and Jill was the nanny or something, and then she just slid right into being wife? I don't know. It all feels like propaganda, so I can't never tell. What's up, U-Town? It's entertaining. Well, you guys let me know when it's time. Well, when we get to the end of the live, we'll kick the troll out and they'll be banned and everything, so just go ahead and get your fill out of it. Patriarch the Caretaker. Yep. Jill Handler. Gary, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It is all part of the plan. Absolutely. I think we're all on the same page. Old Man Walter crapped his pants and he left. Robert Jr. Trolls are too funny. I don't know if we got any trolls over on YouTube. I'm just too bitter against YouTube. I'm just too bitter. I really don't read the chat. I see when you guys tag my name and I say hello to you because I do appreciate you guys watching, but I hate YouTube and I can't sit there and read the chat. So you guys got to jump over to Rumble or jeffmaclive.com or something. I mean, you can even go to Twitch and Kick if you want to. I just named the primary platforms. Alright, moving forward. Next video titled, More than 60 indicted on RICO charges for trying to stop Cop City. So this is the justice system going after Antifa. We'll see how it goes. I mean, according to the track record, all these charges will be dropped. But it is mildly entertaining to see that they actually did indict Antifa in Atlanta. There's different factions of Antifa. But this is the Forest Defenders or whatever they are. And the last time we covered them, one of the people arrested was actually a law student in Texas or something like that who went all the way to Atlanta to get arrested for domestic terrorism. Idiots. Let's get this started.
61 people will face racketeering charges for their alleged roles in protesting a planned police training facility in Atlanta. Prosecutors are calling the defendants militant anarchists after attacks like this one on police at the construction site. Activists say they fear the facility would create more militarization of police. Jorge Ventura joins us now with more. And Jorge, what do we know about these incidents?
Hey, good morning, Marky. So Georgia's Attorney General Chris Carr announcing on Tuesday that 61 people have been indicted on racketeering charges. That's Georgia's RICO law, and that comes after the state's investigation into protests against a firefighter and police training center in the Atlanta area. Protesters often call this area Cop City. According to the AG, the defendants are members of the Defund the Atlanta Forest movement, and majority of them are from out of state. Protesters against the training facility began back in 2021, but started turning violent last May when officials say demonstrators threw Molotov cocktails and rocks at police officers.
Snooks, YouTube and Twitch is down. Seppa, no, it wasn't Klaus. Klaus he's sleeping right now because it's still pretty hot out. I see you guys on Rumble. Ooh, I just heard something weird. What did I hear? Snooks. Oh, it's me. I heard me. Yeah, that's me. Oh, we're actually live again on YouTube. I don't know what's going on, okay? I don't know. I'm just a hooligan like you guys, okay? I don't know. I don't know. It must not be a strike if that's going on. I don't know. I'd prefer not to get a strike, but this right here is exactly why you guys need to be watching somewhere other than YouTube, because YouTube is the only platform that gives me strikes and tells me what I can and can't say. Flip my chapstick right here in front of you guys. You guys watching me flip my chapstick? Pulled out his big chapstick and flipped it right in front of us. I know, it's a terrible person. Tom, sound and no video over on Twitch. Well, this is dumb. I hate doing all this tech stuff. Sound and no video over on Twitch. We'll see if we can get Twitch started back up. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with YouTube. I think we're good everywhere else. As long as we're good on Rumble and the website. Those are my main priority. Matt, Twitch only has sound. Good on the website. Twitch is AIDS. What's up, Sind again? We're good. Okay, we're good. We're just everybody else. Go to Rumble or jeffmaclive.com. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say. Okay, so anyways, about the video we just watched prior to whatever just happened on the live here. Oh, I see. Okay, it was an internet issue because I see that I dropped frames on my end. So it was something that happened here. Rule that out. Okay, got it. Happened here. My fault. My bad, hooligans. I suck sometimes, I guess. Tis what tis. Okay, this is how God made me. Don't you be mad at me. Anyways, the RICO charges, it is interesting to see that 61 members of Antifa were indicted for RICO charges because of things going on with the Stop Cop City movement or whatever. But it's really interesting to hear that, I can't remember if they said 15 or 16 people are also indicted for money laundering. And I think that's really interesting because when we used to watch the protests on a daily basis, because they were happening on a daily basis, for some reason people still have this disconnect. They think that I'm just not showing the protest, but there is no protest happening for me to show, which is why we do Coffee with Hooligans now. But back then, we would watch Antifa get tackled by police or federal agents, depending on where they were, and you would hear somebody from the group of Antifa say, you know, tell me your name, tell me your name. We always wonder why were they doing that? And then we eventually found out that they were doing that because other people of Antifa would raise money, get attorneys, or already had attorneys on call, and would go get that Antifa member freed as quickly as possible or give them legal defense as quickly as possible. Well, what they just mentioned in that article is they were using that technique to gain money, and they were laundering it doing that stuff. And so what originally started as a way for them to basically have legal defense for everybody involved on the Antifa side turned into a money laundering scheme. So that's really interesting to see that come through 3 years later, to see it develop into a money laundering scheme. That's really interesting, I think. And I didn't notice that when I screened the video. So that is something. That is something. Hopefully accountability and justice will be handed down to them, rightfully so. You commit the crime, you need to do the time. I've done it. It's what you gotta do. It's what you gotta do. You do something wrong, you should be held accountable. Maybe those assholes will wake up. So we're gonna move on to this last video here. It's titled Seattle. I don't know why I keep saying Seattle man alleges anti-white discrimination after being called devil and cannibals. And I think this is really interesting, and I don't want you guys to use this as a time to start becoming ignorant and saying really bad things in the chat. Okay, don't do that. Don't do that. I don't like racism of any sort. I don't want anybody to be mistreated because of their skin color. I know a lot of people feel this way of what we're about to cover, and you don't have to air it out in the chat. I know we cover all the BLM protests and stuff. I know the whole anti-white stuff that's going on. Okay, I know you don't have to air your grievances. And I'm not trying to tell you not to air your grievances, but don't use this as an opportunity to be racist. I do not want to have to ban people today, okay? That's your warning. Don't do that. Don't choose right now to be racist. Okay, we're going to hear about this guy and the racist experience that he's had to survive through. Don't put the target on yourself today. This is the warning, okay? Let's get this started.
Well, yeah, there is a racial discrimination and harassment lawsuit against the city of Seattle. That's why you're looking at it right now, the live look here at the Space Needle at the Emerald City. A former city employee alleging discrimination, and the city's trying to get the case tossed, but a federal judge stepping in, just ruling the suit can go forward. And that's why we're looking for Christina Thompson. She's got more details for us. She's live in our newsroom. Christina.
Hey, well, Seattle had motioned to dismiss that suit filed by a white former city employee. The employee alleges that mandatory cultural sensitivity programs he was forced to attend promoted anti-white indoctrination. So that defendant, Joshua Dimer, he says he was constantly treated worse than his fellow employees of minority races. Some examples that he alleges in the suit, he says the city manager asked him, quote, "What could a straight white male possibly offer our department?" A senior employee told him it was, quote, "impossible to be racist towards white people." He said he attended a workshop at which he was told, quote, "White people are like the devil. Racism is in white people's DNA and white people are cannibals." Here's Dimer when he first appeared on National Report.
And so I was called the devil. I was called, they told me I had to undo my whiteness and defined me by my race and gave me characteristics and basically stereotyped me on things without even knowing anything about me because they based everything off of my race.
The city argued that Mr. Dimer's claims were so weak they should be dismissed, but the Honorable Judge Jamal Whitehead, appointed by President Joe Biden of the U.S. District Court for the District of Washington, disagreed, allowing for the lawsuit to proceed. Now, I did reach out to the city of Seattle for a comment, but they have not responded yet. Sean, Emma?
All right, Christina Thompson, thank you very much for bringing us the latest on that one. Back here on set, we wanted to turn now to Rachel Kugel. She's been listening into this report. What do you think about this lawsuit? Does he have a case?
It certainly sounds like it, and a judge has decided at least that there are factual issues to let it go forward and let it be heard, which is really what we want in the justice system, right? Is a place and a platform for these types of discrepancies to be argued, and that's what's really been allowed to go forward today. And it should be. You know, discrimination is discrimination, regardless of the color of your skin. We've seen that. That seems to be the way the courts are headed with the recent affirmative action decisions, for example. So I think that, you know, if someone can prove discrimination, whether they are black, white, or anything else, they should be allowed to put that forward.
It's a very interesting point, too, because if you don't, and again, this coming from a non-legal expert to you, who is a legal expert, but to me, if you don't take up this case or the judge doesn't allow that, then there's an appeals process that this could have even escalated, because if you're not going to allow a discrimination case here versus a discrimination case there, you're kind of cherry picking. Right, exactly.
And also, you know, a specific skin color or race or ethnicity or religion is not an element of the discrimination case that needs to be proved. In other words, the laws on the books don't say that proving discrimination requires that this be done to an African-American person, a Jewish person. It doesn't say that, right? It just says that it's creating a hostile work environment. It's creating an unequal or unfair work environment. It doesn't require any set of initial sort of prima facie thing that you have to get past. And I think that's what's important here. You can't rule against him without hearing his claims first.
Yeah, and then, of course, it's up to the plaintiff to prove it in court. We'll keep an eye on the case. Rachel, thank you very much.
Well, it's kind of weird to see anything being done about this. As many of you guys know, for the last 3 years, it's been pretty trendy to, I don't know how to say this without getting in trouble, to be anti-white. You know, it's trendy. Like we mentioned earlier, there was a lot of corporations that were running training and stuff to teach their employees to be less white, and your skin color naturally comes with white supreme pizza, and it's in your DNA. You can't help it. You're racist by nature, and lots of that stuff, and people are sick and tired of it. And I know I see so much of it, and I run so many communities, and it slips in there and it bleeds inside, and it's not good. It's not good. Nobody wants to feel put put down because of their skin color. And like I said, it's been really trendy to walk that walk for the last couple of years. And I think that maybe we're starting to see the turning point. It's not okay to talk bad about any color of somebody's skin or anything like that. It doesn't matter. And I think that's finally come to the forefront. People are starting to acknowledge that you can't talk bad about me because of my skin color because it's white. Like, that doesn't make it okay. And I think everybody's starting to catch up now to that. Because in the workforce, that's the last thing you want. And it's really interesting because last week we covered how going back to work from remote working is going to court because employees are saying to have to go back to the work environment from remote working at home is them having to go back into a racist work environment. That's what they were saying. It was like a week ago or something. We covered a video saying that was the biggest thing. The biggest reason remote workers didn't want to come back to work, and I think it was Amazon we were covering, is because they didn't want to be put in a work environment where they would be treated poorly because of their skin color. They don't want to go back to a racist work environment. Now we're covering a video where it's kind of the same. He's in a racist work environment, but it's a white guy claiming this. And so it's really interesting, and it just goes to show that their propaganda for one way or the other, mistreating someone for their skin color is obviously working. It's working because everybody's worrying about that. One, I think, is a little bit like the Amazon thing, coming back from remote work, not wanting to because of a racist work environment. I think that's more theory. This guy suing wherever he worked because he literally had to take training to learn to be less white. That makes sense. That makes sense. He should be able to sue and win because of that, I believe anyways. Cassandra, undo your whiteness. What does that even mean? Yeah, exactly. They act like it's like reverse racism or something. They're telling you what's wrong with your skin color and that because of your skin color, you're a racist. As if that whole conversation isn't racism on its own. It makes no sense. It's like Inception with racism. It just makes no sense. Annette, you're right. You're right. Just reading through the chat really quick. Snook says, color doesn't matter. Integrity, honor, and respect does with anyone. It's true. It is true. They always say to watch people's actions more than their words. Actions speak loudly. Should do the same thing when it comes to skin color. Treat people according to the actions that they take, not according to the pigment of their skin. Makes no sense. Some people love it though. Some people love to be victimized by their skin color. They love to say, well, I'm this color, I need special treatment. They love it. They're clamping on to it. Those are the soft, stupid people that the propaganda machine is feeding. That's who they're pointing at. Hey, thanks for being here, RK. Have a good day at work. There's someone else. What's up, Seymour? Appreciate you being here. Alright, I don't even know where else we're live. I think we died on Kick too when I lost the internet connection. Shut. I am not going to Rumble. Well, that's fine. That's your choice. That's fine. Play says color is only skin deep. It's true. Sometimes I wonder what would we fight about if we all were the same color. But we'd fight about skin color and hair color, football teams, things we already argue about. Stupid. So stupid. We have it too good over here. We got to bitch about stupid stuff. I guess. I don't know. Well, hooligans, that is all the coffee I had for you guys today. I appreciate all of you guys being here, and I appreciate all of you jumping through the technical hoops that we seem to have to go through on a daily basis. I'm dropping the Linktree link to all of you hooligans if you would like to check it out. We have links to donate if you would like to support the live. We have links for the membership program if you would like to join a membership program for a platform that you hang out on the most. If you are on Rumble, the only way to join the membership program is to click the subscribe button in the chat. If you are on the Android app, the subscribe button isn't there. The only way to click it if you are on Android is to actually go to the website, come to the live right now, scroll to the bottom, click that subscribe button, join the membership program. It will talk about Locals. Locals is the social media that is owned by Rumble, so you will be a part of Locals. Whether you want to participate or not is up to you. But then you will have the badge in your name in the Rumble chat. You will also have access to all the cool custom emojis that we keep uploading, and you'd be doing a great service supporting us, helping us run every day, and to be able to keep doing what we do over here. I appreciate all of you guys that are already a part of the membership program. You guys are badasses, whether you know it or not. Also on the Linktree, you can find links to the merch store. We have two merch stores. One has all the cool shirts you see me wearing. The other one has flags and patches. I think there's even flip-flops on there. There's all kinds of neat stuff on there. Go check out both merch stores. But what I really want you to do is go join Gilded. Gilded is free. It's the best way to be notified every single time we go live. And the hooligans are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It is worthwhile. Go join Gilded. It is free once again. All right, hooligans, it is that time. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, there we go. I almost muted myself. Alright, hooligans, like I said, that is all the coffee I have for you guys today. We will be live tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time, for some gaming. We're playing Starfield. It's been pretty fun. If you would like to come play the game with us and forget the sorrows of the world, for a couple hours, come join us gaming. Find us on Jeff Mac Gaming on YouTube. I don't know the whole... Whoa. Are we gone? What just happened? Are we still live or are we not live? I don't know what the hell just happened. Oh, I'm losing power. I don't know if you guys can see me or not. I just lost power for a brief moment. And I can't bring my camera back. I can't tell if you guys can see me or not. Am I still here? What a day. What a day. Well, I think we're done. I think I'm here by myself. Oh, no, we're good. Okay, well, you can't see me because my camera's... It all got messed up. Everything got messed up. Is there a way for me to bring it back? Hold on a second. I want to come back. I want to say goodbye. Can I do this? And I'm still frozen. Okay. Well, as long as you guys can hear me, we'll put the flag up. I'm frozen there too. Anyways, I appreciate all of you hooligans. I really do. I'm sorry we're having so many problems. Like I said, it's storming and stuff. Either way, I appreciate all of you guys. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Hopefully you'll come join me for gaming tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time at Jeff Mac Gaming. You can find it at the bottom of the link tree. I will see the rest of you tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern time, for the very next Coffee with Hooligans. I appreciate you, all of you, more than you know. I really do, even though you can't see my face. Just hear the emphasis. I really appreciate all of you. Big shout out to everyone that made donations, joined the membership program, or purchased any merch. I really appreciate all of you, and I would not be able to do this without you. So thank you so much for all your support. I'll see you on the next live. Until then, stand tall, shine bright, and that's a wrap.